I'm trying to compete with the best in the world. I'm trying to chase them down, and I'm trying to win on Sundays. I take pieces from all of these guys and I try to blend it into my own skiing and think outside the box and find ways that I can sort of supersede what they're doing, you know, in my own creative way. The creativity is the 10% that makes all the difference. It's the oldest advice in sport, you know, hard work beats talent every time. Yeah. And if you don't pair all the talent with all the commitment and hard work that you can, you're not going to be able to make it to the elite levels that you're seeking.
Our guest today is one of the most creative and passionate skiers of the World Cup Tour. From his colourful hair to his fearless racing, he brings energy, imagination and pure love for the sport. River Radamus. River, it's an absolute pleasure to finally find some quality time to chat with you, to meet you in person as somebody that I've followed for many, many years as a young rising star, and now to see you here on Alpine Pulse is a real pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet the voice behind Alpine ski racing.
That's very kind. Now, you're from Edwards in Colorado, born into a ski family, and both your parents coaches. Deep in the... What are your first memories on skis? And how did growing up in that kind of environment shape your relationship with our sport?
So both my parents, longtime ski coaches. My dad ran the ski club that I grew up skiing at. The story that my parents will always tell is we were constantly traveling when I was a baby, and I was a pretty heavy baby. My mom's a very slight woman, so she put me on skis before I could walk. So you could say that it's in the blood. It's sort of a destined thing to be in this line of work. But it's the greatest passion of my life, and I'm just glad that they've passed it on to me.
And when you were a youngster, did you get that passion, that feeling for ski racing early on? Or was it, I've got to keep mum and dad happy here. Mum and dad are involved. Mum and dad go to work. Or was it something that was as natural to you as it was to them?
Well, I think that my parents would be lying if they said that they didn't want me to enjoy skiing, at the very least, become a ski racer in some regard. But they almost tried to push me away from it. You know, they never wanted their passion to become my passion for it. They wanted me to find it naturally. So they gave me every opportunity in the world to be on skis, but they also let me pursue any sport, any interest that I had. You know, I played soccer, lacrosse, hockey. I was a competitive log roller. You know, they wanted me to be in any sort of sport that I fancied. And then, you know, naturally I was drawn more and more to ski racing because it's hard not to be. But I think that they've helped foster the passion for it, but they've never pushed me in the direction of wanting to do it for them.
I've always wondered if your mum and dad are coaches, successful skiers themselves, and then all of a sudden their son starts to really make a major play on the world stage. What do you talk about when you're at the Sunday lunch table or Thanksgiving dinner or whatever it may be? Do you purposely avoid talking ski racing with mum and dad, or is it something that's as joyful and as interesting as it has been since you were a youngster, right the way through to the present day?
It's really, we try to avoid talking about ski racing as much as possible. You know, they never coached me when I was growing up, even though I respect them to the utmost as coaches, you know, but it was healthy to have that separation. You know, I didn't really know how to deal with being coached by, you know, someone that close to me. But yeah, like they're always caring, they're always supporting, they're always lending an ear if I need it. But they're also giving me the space to pursue this on my own terms. Yeah. My mom through the winter, oftentimes, like she gets so nervous she doesn't watch the races. Sometimes she doesn't even know that I'm racing altogether. You know, she'll be told by someone, "Oh, River had a good race today. He had a bad race." You know, but she's just glad that I make it to the finish.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is So professional as well from everybody involved, I have to say. You were named to the US ski team in 2016 and immediately made your mark. Those youth Olympic gold medals, I remember the first time I commentated on you was at the World Junior Championships, where you absolutely smashed it. Looking back now, how did that early success influence the athlete you've become?
I think it's always been a blessing and a curse. Like I said, both my parents were ski coaches, and so when I was a kid, I skied a lot, and I got to pursue it to my heart's desire, and I had a lot of time to explore and challenge myself and push my limits. And so early on in my career, I had a lot of success through the junior levels, in the local, the regional, and the national competitions. I had a lot of immediate success. And then because of that, I think I was able to skip steps, and I wasn't as diligent on the conditioning part or the mental part or, those other pieces that you need later down the line. And I was able to do that because, I had the talent part, which was good. It's a key part for sure. And then I made it to the national team, and I was a youth Olympic champion, which was the first time that I sort of had the realization that maybe that this can be a career for me. This is something that I can pursue full time, and that opened a whole new world for me. But it also reinforced those ideas that I'm successful here. I'm able to compete, and maybe I don't need to put the time in that other people are putting in. And then I reached the World Cup level, which was a dream for me throughout my life. And then I realized, wow, okay, everybody here is as talented as I am, at the very least, some far more so. But then also everybody here is stronger than me, has put in more work than me, is more mentally, strong than me. And there were so many skills that I realized that I needed to pick up real quick, or else I was never going to be able to compete on this level.
I mean, that's a fascinating answer, River. What you're basically saying is, we've kind of been hoodwinked, haven't we? You became a world junior champion. Odie took all of the medals that were up for grabs at the World Juniors. And you're telling me that, or you're telling the young racers listening in, that that's just the very early stepping stone. You haven't cracked it if you're the world junior champion. You've still got a hell of a way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of athletes that through my career at one point or another were far more successful than me that aren't around anymore. And there are tons of athletes who have far less success at the junior levels who are able to make incredible careers, And so that's what I'm always trying to tell young guys that are looking for advice, looking for mentorship is, it's the oldest advice in sport, hard work beats talent every time. Yeah. And if you don't pair all the talent with all the commitment and hard work that you can, you're not going to be able to make it to the elite levels that you're seeking.
You've also spoken, River, about your creative side, something that we've really enjoyed following your career, from your bold hair colors, but also to your mindset on the hill that I've really enjoyed following as a commentator. Where does that need for expression come from? And how does it connect your skiing, particularly on the World Cup tour?
Yeah, I mean, I think ski racing by nature it's a sport, it's a science, and there's a very clear cut, you're fast or you're not, there is no gray area. But I think combined with that science, there is so much art to it, and that's what's always drawn me to ski racing and to skiing, is exploring my imagination, my creativity, and finding new ways to do things. I started my passion, when I was a kid, as long as I can remember, was I'd wake up on Sundays and I'd watch Ted Ligety ski GS, and then I'd go out on the hill and I'd try to ski just like him, and the way that he skied, the extremes that he put his material to, just, sparked so much creativity, so much imagination in me, and I think in general, right, I'm trying to compete with the best in the world. I'm trying to chase them down. I'm trying to win on Sundays. And I think a realization that I had is, we're always looking at who's the fastest guy, how can we emulate them? But the reality is I'm never going to be able to ski like the fastest guy on any given day faster than they're able to ski that way, And so I take pieces from all of these guys and I try to blend it into my own skiing and think outside the box and find ways that I can sort of supersede what they're doing, in my own creative way. But that's what it all comes down to for me is the art of what we do, and the creativity is the 10% that makes all the difference.
And does that creativity take the pressure off a little bit? I mean, I feel myself saying, oh, what colors is River coming with his hair today? But then a lot of the journalists and commentators say, is that something so that we are with you, taking the pressure off? We're all saying fantastic hair color, fantastic style. There's this expression, this artistry that you're describing. But does it actually help you go faster because it takes a little bit of the pressure off?
I think it recenters the whole sport for me from a me first experience, which can feel very selfish. It feels like I'm not doing anything for the broader sense. When I tie my skiing more so as a performance, and the crowd are a part of that performance, and I'm blessed to go out on Sundays and perform for them and try to give them something to cheer for, something to stand on the edge of their seats for, and hopefully something that they enjoy watching, and so that's the connection that I want to feel, and the root of why I do this is I'm going to go out and try to venture and dare greatly to do something great for the crowd, for the spectators at home, so that we share in a beautiful moment, right? And so the hair is sort of my expression of a commitment to creativity and to not showmanship, because it's at the core of it, the skiing is the most important thing. I don't want to get too tied into the aesthetics of it, but it's a commitment to showing my personality and laying myself bare so that they will accept me.
That's wonderful. And let's talk about when it all comes together. It was not this season just gone, but the season before, your first World Cup podium performance in Palisades Tahoe. And you whipped the crowd up into a frenzy. I mean, it was more like a Rolling Stones concert than a World Cup ski race. It was brilliant. And all the things that you're describing to us, particularly that entertainment factor, seemed to come flowing out. The crowd went crazy. Third position, your first World Cup podium, with the cool hair, but with some magical skiing. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on that day, because when I was commentating it on the TV, wow, that really was a rock and roll performance.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that all high-performing athletes are constantly looking for is that flow state, the moment where you can sort of take away all of your inhibitions and let your absolute best performance show and be fearless in that moment, And I think that that's something I'm constantly trying to find inspiration for and fuel in the direction of, and the easiest way to get in that flow state for me is competing on home soil and having the crowd really engaged with you, right? Like, as American ski racers, we don't get a ton of those opportunities. And for so much of the winter, it feels so removed from what we're doing. It's hard to feel your friends and your family and all the American supporters when you're thousands of miles away in the middle of Europe. And so when we get those opportunities, I feel like it's first and foremost my responsibility, but also my pleasure to get to perform for that crowd, And so in Palisades, I was sitting at the start first run, and you could just hear the whole crowd, all the way down cheering for you before you've even gone out of the start, And so I just feel so energized by that, and so responsible to try to do it justice, And so that whole day I was just fueling off of that energy that the crowd was giving me. to try to reach something deeper. And I don't think I could have had a performance like that at that point in where I was skiing without that feeling of the crowd fueling me. That's what we all live for in this sport, and it just came together in a great way.
It was sensational. And this season just passed, so what we would call the 2025 tour, whilst the podiums and the victories that many of us thought were now ready to come and flow together were sort of overtaken by consistency. So for me, you scored points in every World Cup giant slalom last season. You were in the top 10 more consistently than ever before. But by the end, I got the feeling you were getting a little frustrated that top 3, that win wasn't there. How would you describe the 25 season? And was it pleasing to find the consistency, yet frustrating not to match that Palisades podium?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult sport, because it is so clear cut, and every time you have a new best result, every following result gets compared to it, and so it's always a battle. I remember for years when I was starting my World Cup journey, I just wanted to be in the top 30 over and over again, and I got in the top 30 once, and then the next race I would miss it and it would feel completely devastating, or I'd match it and it would feel not as satisfying, right? And so you're constantly leveling up and chasing new levels, which is great, but oftentimes looking at the results too much really has a negative effect on your judgment of yourself and your performance and the work you put in. So that's constantly a balance I'm trying to find, and a battle I'm trying to fight. But yeah, I would say overall last year felt disappointing to me. And it was certainly to some degree because of the results, but also just because I didn't feel like the skiing was where I wanted it to be. There was always something missing. I was always sort of playing whack-a-mole when, something would come up and I'd try to put all my energy into fixing it, and then something else would come up, and nothing ever felt natural to me. I think that's something that I've always felt like I do really well, is when I'm skiing my best. It feels like I'm free skiing the course and the gates just get in the way. And last year it felt like every turn I was going through a mental checklist on how do I start, ski through the apex and complete the turn, and so it was never natural. Nothing ever was coming easy for me. And so that's been something I've been trying to fix all summer, and right now I feel as natural and as fast as I've ever skied. But just in a very broad sense, I think from a mindset standpoint, I'm in a much better place where, you think about what we do and the amount of time that we spend doing it. It's a full year-round job, between skiing, probably 200 plus days a year, conditioning, at least 100 days off snow, but it's a whole year-round thing. I'm spending the better part of my entire year pursuing this dream, right? And then I believe that Odermatt and I were the most starts on the men's side in the World Cup last year. We both had 33 or something like that, it's a lot of races, but you think about, okay, 33 races in GSs, it's like, 2 1-minute runs, super Gs and downhills, and, a lot of slaloms I didn't get second runs on, those are 1 runs, and you add it all up and it's like, okay, well, I spent, 320 days a year pursuing this dream last year for an hour of work, really, And when you think about it like that, it's like, it's so black and white, and when you're skiing great, then all the time feels great. When you're skiing bad, then 1 minute can ruin your week. And so the mindset that I have right now, and it's easy to say here in this hotel room, and it's a lot harder to say after the race is over, I'm sitting in the finish. But I really try to approach it as the 300 and some odd days, that's the work. The Saturdays and Sundays that I race, that's like the celebration for the work. And so I do everything I possibly can in the weight room, on the training hill, how I recover, how I prepare, how I sleep, all that. I try to execute as best I possibly can there, and feel like I'm the most prepared I can possibly be, so that when I'm standing in the start gate on Saturday and Sunday, I can just let the skiing happen, let the cards fall where they may, and be proud of myself for the preparation, and that tends to bring out the best results for me.
You said it yourself, you and Odie, Marco Odermatt I'm referring to, of course, set yourself a busy schedule. Super G giant slalom and slalom. Marco Odermatt, world number one, downhill Super G and giant slalom. So many of the slalom racers are specialists. They'll just do slalom, maybe tinker with a little bit of giant slalom. Which way do you see your career going? Because we love to watch River Radamus ski. You're such a beautiful, natural skier, and you've explained where and why that is the case. But where do you take your career now? Do you think you can be competitive with the shortest skis on and the longer skis? I see here, top 10 in World Cup Super G, and now you're an established top 15 world rank giant slalom skier, and I can ask any of the guys on the mountain over the next week if River's got a chance of winning, and they'll all say, yes, he definitely has. How do you take the decisions with these disciplines? And when and where do you decide, I'm going to have to drop one to actually maximize the other two, maybe?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, it's every race I'm entering, I have to feel in my absolute core that I have a chance of winning at any given day, you know? If you don't, then there's no point in starting. And so whether it's a slalom, a GS, or a Super G, no matter how long the odds may seem, like I feel completely convicted in my heart that if I can ski the way that I know I can ski, I can compete with anybody out there, right? I don't have a long-term plan of, you know, what races I want to do, or, you know, a timeline on narrowing the scope. You know, for me, I do this because I love this, and I love every part of this. You know, I love GS, Super G, slalom, downhill. I love it all. And, you know, I love, maybe I'm a bit of a masochist. I love struggling and fighting and trying to improve and competing against the odds, you know. I like doing all the events because I think everything presents a unique challenge and a unique joy to me. You know, my slalom feels like such a different, like it feels like a completely different sport, not just a different discipline from what Super G does. And I think that it's compelling and interesting. It keeps everything fresh. If I was a GS skier only, I think that I'd lose my mind skiing, you know, months on end, hoping to get 1 to 2 tenths faster. Yeah. Slalom, I don't get to train as much. And so it feels like every time I train, I figure something out. I make a big leap, you know, and that's a much more satisfying feeling sometimes. But I think that all of it helps each other, you know, and so whether I'm racing or not, I think my slalom helped my Super G, helped my GS, and everything circles around and makes me a more well-rounded, balanced skier. So we'll see. We'll see what the year brings. I think I've established myself well in GS and Super G. I've surprised some people in the past in slalom, but yeah, I think the races that you see me start are the ones that I have a strong belief that I can compete, and if not, then I'm working to get there.
So what's the key? What is River Radamus working on to evolve the giant slalom? We saw a model of consistency. Look at this. It's a beautiful set of results. You know, just once out of the top 15, every other 8 from 9 races you're in there. We can see a trend. You always are able to raise your game on home snow, and the fans love that. But you know, and I know, that those top 10 and podium performances need to come in Alta Badia, for many the Holy Grail, for Adelboden, the one that everybody wants to win. What's the game plan now, River? Because I looked very carefully. If you just took a half a second off every one of these results, you'd have been on the podium in all 9.
That hurts to hear. No, I mean, I think it was a conscious goal of mine last year to improve my consistency and be able to compete on any given day, right? And I am proud of having scored in every World Cup last year. That's a good stepping stone, but I think that focusing on that or keeping that somewhere deep in the back of my mind subconsciously lowers the top end. If I'm shooting for consistent performances, I think that narrows away some of the exceptional, rarer performances, right? So I've shown myself I can do that. And in training, I've shown myself that I can push my limits and not increase my DNF, my go out rate too significantly. And so the mindset this year is giving myself a chance, right? And swinging for the upside much more often and seeing where the cards lay. That's going to open me up for a lot more downside for sure. But I need to compete to win instead of somewhere in the back recesses of my mind competing to finish. But something that I really admire about those top guys, like you look at a Marco Odermatt, and in my personal opinion, I think there are other guys that compete with him, on their best days. And I like to think that I'm among them. On my best day, I can compete with Odermatt. But the thing that he's shown over the last few years is even on his bad day, he's competing with everybody else. On my bad day, I'm much further down on the rankings or DNFing, And so you really admire the kind of high level consistency that he has, especially in a sport with so much variables, so much adversity. And that's where I think everybody else is trying to get to right now.
Now, I've heard you talk about the Grand Riza quite a lot. Mm-hmm. It's obviously means so much to a giant slalom racer. This beast is phenomenal. The atmosphere is amazing. The crowd's there. It hasn't quite clicked there for you, but would that be the special one to make it happen? And would it be the perfect pre-Olympic prep for River Radamus if you could nail a big result in Alta Badia this coming season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of really special GSs to me, and like I've said often, the home soil ones are always super special because of the significance culturally for me. But for me and probably most of the other GS skiers, Alta Badia is the one. It is like the mecca of GS skiing. I think that if you could design a slope, that's the slope that I'd want to design, right? And so it does. It carries a special place for me. I scored my first World Cup points ever there, and a couple of years ago I had a couple of pretty strong performances there. But I think that's the one that I certainly want to ski at my top level at, and hopefully one day get a podium at. I think that the thing that makes it so unique is that to be able to be successful there, you have to be so good at so many different things. Yes. There are specialist tracks that are always steep or have lots of rolls, but Alta Badia is steep. It has rolls, it has big turns, it has tight turns, it has so many different pieces of terrain and different things you need to execute that, I think it's every GS skier's dream to be able to be successful there. And I always go in there having a special feeling and a special desire to do the hill justice. So we'll see. I think it would be a treat to be able to be successful there, and it would bring a lot of momentum into the Olympics, but who knows from now.
Well, you're so close. That half-second rule is the absolute truth. And half a second is nothing. Let's move on to our second category, River. Okay, so here we go with Icy Slope. River, a friend of yours, is going to ask a couple of questions. You'll know who he is as soon as you hear his voice, never mind see his face.
Okay.
But give us the best answer that you possibly can. Are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Hey, guys. The first question I want to ask River is based on his style of skiing and how I think fluid and angulated he gets. So what, in your eyes, River, is the best turn you've ever made in a race in your life?
Ooh.
That is a tricky one.
It's a typical World Cup racer question, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I could easier. This is Ryan Cochran-Siegel, obviously. I think I could easier name the best turns that he's ever made. He's made a lot of really special ones, and I've been able to watch a lot of them. I would probably say on his Bormio winning run. He had a couple of very, very special ones, fully committed skiing.
Yes.
But gosh, for me, I have a terrible memory. Let's see, what are the ones that stick out to me? I think there was, actually my very, very first World Cup in Beaver Creek many years ago. I guess 2017. Coming over after the pump house section, there's a breakover that I just was so laid over, had my armpit basically on the snow. I was skiing, when you're so dumb, you're so naive, you don't know to be scared. I was just skiing on the absolute limit. And I remember seeing afterwards, because that was the exact same turn where Ted, I think, had his most famous turn in 2015 at the World Championships, and someone posted a photo of my turn and his turn right on top of each other, and they were so identical. And that was like the best feeling for me, because he was the guy that I was always trying to emulate. And the old saying, shake the pillars of heaven, just for that just split second, taste what that's like was special.
Do you know what? The best turns that I really enjoyed last season from you, when you were doing the Super G in Beaver Creek. And I think somebody said in my commentary, what did you just say about River Radamus? And I said, look at these turns. He's looking like a downhill racer. And then all of a sudden there was this flurry of emails of saying, is River going to be a downhill racer? When are we going to see him doing the downhill? Let's get question 2.
All right.
See what Ryan has to say for you here. You can tell you're both technical skiers and you love the technique. Let's see if he goes technical again.
The second question I want to ask is, I think I know River as the ski racer, but then I also know River personally. And I think they are at times they can be quite different. I think River carries a lot of intensity when he's racing, trying to get in that, right mentality. But I'm curious because I feel like a lot of people actually don't know, the like very humble, kind, a little bit more reserved River personally. So the question is, honestly, what, to your fans out there, what's one thing you wish people knew about you, River the person, and not necessarily just you, River the skier?
That's very kind of him. As my mom would say, fooled another one. It's all an act, the humbleness. Of course, I'm very self-assured. No, that's funny. Ryan, I would say many of the same things for, actually. He's just turns into a different animal when he's on the course, and then afterwards he's so laid back, so quiet, but the way that he skis, you have to have so much intensity and so much focus for. I don't know. I don't think that there's much of me that I hide away necessarily. I think I am beyond grateful for this opportunity, this short window that I have to be able to compete with the best and to pursue being the best in the world at what I do. This is such a short window for me, and I really relish it. And I really relish the opportunity to share that experience and pursue that experience with so many of my peers. They're my competitors, of course, and I want to destroy them as much as I can. But really, it feels like a brotherhood. I've made friends from all around the world, and they'll be brothers to me for a lifetime. And so I think that's something that the average fan probably doesn't see as much. Like there is so much competition and everybody's out there to win and have success. We're all pursuing the same dream at the same time, and it's just a real pleasure to be with these guys and have them raise at my level and me try to raise theirs.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you, Ryan. Some great questions there. Let's move on to part 2. And I want to dig deeper into some of the points that you've just said there, River. If we took away the helmet, if we took away the race skis, what kind of person is River Radamus outside of ski racing? What do you like? What inspires you? Because it's been such an integral part of your life, skiing, full stop, since you can remember to this very day today. But what are the things that turn you on outside of ski racing?
Yeah, I do. I just like it. probably goes without saying, but I really do. I wake up every morning loving what I do and just overwhelmingly grateful to have turned my deepest passion into some semblance of a job, for this short window. And so it never feels like a chore for me, and no part of it ever feels tedious, I guess. So like number one with a bullet is skiing. That's the biggest passion in my life for sure. But like, I think in general, as a person, my biggest driving force is betterment and trying to improve, trying to realize my potential in whatever facet interests me. Like I mentioned earlier, I love the feeling of sucking at something, at struggling at something. And so I'm constantly picking up new hobbies because I think that feeling of trying something new, struggling mightily, and then finding success, finding leaps of improvement is so gratifying for me. So my summer is very busy with odd hobbies that I pick up and try to pursue. I play hockey in the summer. I surf. I'm working on my pilot's license. I'm constantly looking for new things to push myself into and see what I'm capable of in new facets. But yeah, I think that's not to get philosophical, but like if I think about what I'm put on this earth to do, it's to realize the absolute best version of myself and to live as full a life as I possibly can. And so I'm constantly, if I find an interest in something, I don't just think about it. I try to go out and pursue it.
That's wonderful words again. I've heard you say before that nature is your way to reset. What do you find there? Freedom, silence, perspective, the environment itself. Is that something very close to your heart?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest parts of what we get to do is the places that I get to go and visit and experience while I'm young, France, Italy, Germany, Japan, everywhere around the world that I've gotten to race that I probably would never have gotten to see if not for this job. And so I think the gratitude that comes from that and the opportunity that I'm presented is something that energizes me so much. And, I think when I'm standing in the start gate and I'm trying to get myself into the zone of focus, one of my favorite things to do is just look at the horizon, the insane Dolomites or mountaintops that we're skiing in, and just think about how lucky I am to be here in this moment, right? And so I'm constantly trying to connect with that piece of it, not just the nature, but the culture and the food and all these new places that I get to go. And I think that energizes me and refocuses the broader, if not purpose, benefit at least of what I get to do.
And if you don't mind me intruding, your girlfriend, Storm, ski racer,
yeah,
and somebody who's coming back from injury, so we're all very interested to hear a little bit there. But does that help? Your sort of private life is also skiing. Your partner is a ski racer. You can sit and talk. And we see so many successful ski racing partnerships of male and female skiers. Is that something that you find is healthy, positive, or it was just by chance that you bumped into Storm and now you're a wonderful couple?
I think it certainly helps because the difficulties that come with this job, the amount of time that I have to spend on the road, are much easier when they're shared by both of us. We both sort of understand the situation and the demands that this job puts on us, right? But yeah, I think general relationship advice always says that you have to find a common ground, right? Religion or finances or career path, and our common ground, of course, in the center of it all is that our greatest passion is the same. And I'm really grateful to have found someone like that and who supports my pursuit as much as she does. And like you mentioned, she's coming back from injury right now. She's fought harder than anybody else that I've ever seen in this sport. There's in a sport full of injuries, She's had 10 plus knee surgeries now. She had a brain aneurysm that was operated on last year. She's broken ankles. She's had hernias and everything else. Like, there has been no one that I've seen that's had to come back and fight back from as much as she has, you know? And so I've been super lucky for the most part on the injury side, and seeing how resilient she is, how determined she is to pursue her dreams, makes me also feel grateful for the opportunities that I get. And, you know, I think that something that always happens through all of her adversity is she comes back skiing even faster than she did before, right? And I think that the time off gives her time to reflect and remember how much it all means to her, and gives her so much gratitude when she gets to do it, and that just fuels me. So yeah, I'm her biggest supporter, and I'm hoping she's gonna kick butt this year, as I hope that I will as well.
Yeah, no, you're a very cool couple, I have to say. Let's talk a little bit about Arco, your new foundation, helping fund young and up and coming ski racers. What inspired you to start that, and what do you really hope to achieve with it?
I can give you the quick pitch on it, which is I'm trying to do whatever I can to contribute back to the health of American ski racing for the next generation. You know, I'm trying to ensure that athletes that don't have the resources but have a lot of passion and talent are able to pursue it to the highest level, so that we have a stronger talent pool coming up, and then hoping to push the sport as much as I can to be affordable for all backgrounds, so that more, you know, socioeconomic athletes, you know, are able to pursue the sport in the first place and feel welcomed in the sport, right? It sort of came about from a feeling of, one, great gratitude for what I get to do, and a feeling of responsibility. You know, when I have this short window of time that I get to pursue my dream and represent the U.S. as best I can, I have the platform, I have the resources, I have the opportunity to give back to the sport that's given me so much, right? So it's sort of a driving force for me, and it helps me feel like I'm doing more good with this opportunity, which otherwise, as I mentioned before, can feel a bit selfish, can feel a bit self-serving, and like it's not providing a broader good. So yeah, this is the third year now of the foundation. In collaboration with the World Cup Dreams Foundation, we've given out 60 plus grants at this point for more than $100,000. I'm running camps in the spring that are completely free to all athletes, sending athletes to international competitions that they might not have otherwise been able to be part of, and hopefully inspiring my peers and the other people who've given, you know, who've gotten so much from this sport, to give back and support the next generation. Because I think that the reality is, at least in my view in the US, the sport doesn't run unless everybody that gains from it also gives back and helps, you know, bring up the next generation.
River, how can our listeners, our viewers, contribute to Arco? Is there a website, a donation, hashtag? How can people help? Because it sounds bloody brilliant, to be honest.
Well, there's an Instagram account, Arco Foundation on Instagram, that will give you a lot of the information. World Cup Dreams has a website, and through that portal you can donate to the Arco grants. You know, I always encourage people to get engaged with me, you know, because I think that I have a pretty narrow view, you know, as an athlete, and I have a bit of a wider view because my parents were coaches and they give me some insight, you know, but I'm constantly looking for ways to better support the athletes and meet them where they are, and you know, broaden the effect and the impact of what I'm trying to do.
I can't wait to interview an Arco athlete.
Yeah, we have the first Arco athlete, because we support U16s, right?
Yep.
And we have the first athlete that's graduated from the Arco team and made the US ski team this year. Her name's Logan Grosdidier. So look for big things from her.
Logan, we are absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. We've got to go there, River. You want to go there. I want to see you win there. It's the 25th Winter Olympic Games this coming season in Milan Cortina. Huge American squad has been announced over the past few weeks, but you are one of those guys that American hopes are firmly pinned on. They really want you to do the magic there. Is it something that you're looking forward to? Is it a challenge that you are relishing? Or is it a little bit daunting, especially when commentators like I never stop bloody talking about it? That Olympic season, the races before, and then getting to Italy itself. Are you ready to rumble?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of pressure. You can feel it on your shoulders, but the Billie Jean King quote, pressure is a privilege, right? And I root all of my preparation in the understanding that at my very best, if I have a very long career, maybe I get 4 opportunities at this, right? In my life, and it's every kid's dream that enters into an Olympic sport that they want to see themselves on that podium. And so I'm in the prime of my career right now. I'm skiing the best I've ever skied. I feel healthy, and I know that I need to give everything I possibly can to this dream, right? Because there's a long time after sport, and I think I'll be proud of myself regardless if I go into it knowing that I've given everything I possibly can and skied as fearlessly as I possibly can and let the cards fall where they may. But if I feel like I could have done anything more to get to that level and earn a medal, that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life, And so that's the mindset that I go into the entire prep season feeling. And, it still weighs on my shoulders now. For the last 4 years, I've had the screensaver for my phone has been a photo from the sidelines of the podium in China, and I was 4th place there and probably beyond most people's expectations, but also so close to a lifelong dream that you never know if it's going to come again. And so I've had it on my mind all this time and motivated by it constantly, and I'm doing everything I can to pursue it, and we'll see what happens in February.
I had this conversation with Paula Moltzen earlier today. Mm-hmm. Does that 4th place in the Beijing Winter Olympic Games of 2022 slightly piss you off?
Yeah. I mean, it's piss you off is one word for it. Haunt you. It's whatever it was, 0.2, 1/10 from a podium. It's like it makes you sick to your stomach thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. This is a story that I constantly have to remind myself of. I was at the Olympics, and it wasn't. I certainly wasn't a favorite, right, to podium.
Fair.
But I knew that I had a chance, and I knew that I could compete with the best. And I had 2 really good runs and came up just short, and it was one of those feelings like maybe this never happens again. And it's just like, I was so close to everything changing. And then the next day I was in the buffet, right, in the team hospitality, and someone who had earned a medal in those Olympics was complaining about the salad bar. And I was just so confounded by that. I was like, you won an Olympic medal and you're complaining about the salad bar? Like the salad bar, like your whole life's different. And so that was a moment for me to step back, and like I was annoyed by it at the time. And then I realized like there will never ever be a single result that's going to change my life. That's going to be a permanent boost. Great results come and go, great feelings come and go. And, I'll relish all the feelings of the great results I've had, and I'm continuing to chase great results in the future. And I'm putting all of my energy into hopefully securing an Olympic medal, but I need to be happy and satisfied in the way that I go through my life, regardless of what the outcome is. One of my favorite movies when I was a kid was Cool Runnings.
Yeah.
The Jamaican bobsled team.
What a great film.
I think the quote in that is, if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. And I feel like I'm enough without it now, but I sure would love to feel what it's like to be with it.
Yeah, I think it'll happen. 4 years ago, why not go one better? If you're going to go one better, then go all in.
Might as well.
Give Mr. Odermatt a real run for his title. Thank you, River. Let's go into our final category, rapid fire. Whatever comes into your mind, hit me with that answer. If it's a little bit cheeky, we don't mind. Here we go. Vail or Palisades Tahoe?
Vail.
Schladming or Kitzbühel?
Kitzbühel.
Adelboden or Gran Riesa?
Gran Riesa.
Powder Day or GS training?
GS training.
It's going to get tougher, I tell you. Olympic medal or Crystal Globe?
Crystal Globe.
Surfing or motocross?
Both.
Okay, we'll let you off, but only once can you say both. Morning gym or sunset surf?
Sunset surf.
Best ski buddy on tour?
Otley.
Wow, that's a great answer. A night out with the boys or on the couch with your girlfriend?
On the couch with the girlfriend.
You have to say that because she's listening.
That's a right answer.
That's a very smart answer, not just the right answer. One song that always gets you pumped before the start?
What's in Adelboden? We finish the last breakover, and they always play "Born in the USA." So,
yeah,
Born in the USA.
Yeah, can't fail with Springsteen. Bodie Miller or Ted Ligety?
Oh no!
No. Yes,
Ted, but both.
Yeah, we love you both, Bodie and Ted, but River votes Ted. Favorite color you've ever dyed your hair?
Well, pattern cheetah print.
Yeah, I love that one too as well. It made me smile. Who's the funniest on the US team?
The funniest, Bryce Bennett.
What color next season?
Who knows?
Okay.
Hit my DMs.
Most stressful, Olympic start or press conference?
You make it easy.
Describe yourself in just 3 words, please.
Smart, handsome, humble.
I love all 3. Favorite race on the calendar?
Gran Riesa.
If skiing didn't exist, what would you be doing right now?
Probably sitting on a street corner.
Best post-race meal?
Schnitzel.
Who gives you the best advice on the team?
Isaiah Nelson.
Who would play you in a Netflix biopic?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Yeah. I guess Tom Holland plays everybody.
And finally, what does success mean to River Radamus?
Feeling satisfied in myself and my own efforts.
That's a very honest answer. River, thank you for being with us, for your honesty, your creativity, and your passion. You remind us that skiing is not just about speed and precision. It is all about imagination, courage, and the joy of expressing yourself through every turn. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Alpine Pulse Unplugged on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, FIS TV, and all of the major platforms. River Radamus, have a fantastic season. I'm possibly one of your top fans myself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I hope to give you something to commentate very excitedly this winter.
I will scream and shout, I promise. Thank you.
Terrific.
Alpine Pulse is an official podcast of the FIS, produced by Maniac Studios.